Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We're very pleased that you've joined us. This is our favourite part of the job where we get to tell you all the great things about Sophiuri and why we'd love you to be a part of it as well. So I'm pleased to introduce Fernanda, who is our National Experts Manager, George Hernandez, who is our CEO and founder, and myself. My name is Rena, and I am Sophiuri's CMO. So we'll begin our session today with a presentation from George on what Sophiuri is and how it works. Go ahead, George.
Thank you, Rena. We're here today to reach out to those ones that have registered with us as an education expert. And we want to go back to defining what Sophiuri is and how we are trying to make something different here. So showing you right now my screen, this is our blog. You're welcome to go to sophiuri.com/blog. There is this post that we did a few weeks back called "We Live to Connect People." So here we start by saying what we are not. So we're not an education agency because we don't have the same things that education agents usually have, like offices and computers with people and a desk. And a 9-to-5 sort of operation, because we don't have that. In principle, is that we say that we are not an agent. Also, we don't run events, and that very typical marketing activity run by agents. We're not a course search website like Hot Courses or those guys. We're not a career counseling website like Career FAQ or a consultant company. We basically are what you call a share economy business, where we are connecting education experts and prospective international students. These education experts are you guys, are people that have a lot of knowledge about this industry, whether it is that you've been working with students for a long time or worked on an education provider in the admissions area or worked with visas as an example. You are the experts and you are one part of the equation. The other one is the international students, of course. Now, what makes us different, again, is because we have a platform that basically connects with the students, and it's available in multiple languages. If you were to go to sophiuri.com, it's available now in Chinese, and then in Portuguese and in Spanish, and that just simply detects the browser language and will display accordingly. We plan to roll out multiple languages later on. We have a platform that is available on a web base at the moment. In a few months, we'll roll it out also as an app. But it mainly, more importantly, it uses GPS to try to match people based on distance. And a second criteria will be languages and nationalities. We also have a transparent system where we are giving access to education providers as well, so they can see that what we do and say is exactly what's happening. And when we start our marketing for the students next month, we are going to be also rolling out a lot of automations to make your life easy, so that when you are actually canceling a student, you get initially a lot more information about them. Now, for international students, this is important as well because this is a 100% free to use application. They will never be paying us or you guys as an expert for anything. If there comes a time where they need to pay for the fees, they will do it straight into the education provider's account. Then also we'll be receiving advice from people like you, people that have more experience than the usual counselor that you will find at an agent. So you will never be able to compare the experience that a 25-year-old working as an education agent has in comparison to you that has a lot more experience than them. And we also have a rating system. So students will be rating you throughout the journey, and that adds up to the search result. So in time, when we have more students and we have more experience on this, the results will be changing so that the people that are better rated will be at the top, as opposed to the ones that are not rated as good. And what does it mean then for you? For you, it means that you have a huge potential for earning. We have also, as a share economy platform, the idea of sharing the financial benefits of that. So when we have agreements with an education providers, it's for us to be rewarded for every successfully enrolled student. And that type of commission, which changes from provider to provider and from course to course, ranges in levels of study as well, ranges in between 5 to 25%, depending on the products. So we'll be sharing that with you as well, and that can actually make a big difference. The other thing is about the flexibility. So you can work from home because this is an online application, and you can work also at different times of the week. So you don't necessarily need to be restricted to a 9-to-5 job. And what that means as well is that if you're working and you want to do this on a part-time basis, or if you have other priorities in your life, like being with your kids and then only doing this whenever you had time, then this provides that flexibility. Last is about the application. So we have been designing this in mind with two things in mind: millennials and females. And it's actually translated in our brand. And as you can see from the people that we work with, like Fernanda or Reina, that we know that there is a change when it comes to education. And in fact, I was reading this article today about visas that are more approved to females than males. So that is also one point of difference about Sophiri. Again, I encourage you to go to this blog because there's a lot of information. But the next thing I wanted to tell you also is our FAQ. So we basically held a similar presentation about a month ago, and we answered a lot of questions. But we also worked over the last days in terms of trying to build up a knowledge base where we can answer many, many more questions as well. So I'm just going to share with you what that looks like. All right, can you guys see the Sophiri FAQ now? Awesome. So as soon as you get here, which is faq.sophiri.com, there is a search function where you can type anything, any questions you might think of. So you, for instance, say, all right, so I want to know about whether Sophiri is flexible when it comes to holidays. So I'm just typing the word holiday here, and it's already coming up with something, which is what happens when I go on a holiday, or there's a period of time where I prefer not to work. So it's very smart in terms of trying to understand what is it that you want to do. You can either type a question and see if something comes up, or you can actually click on the relevant area. So say, for instance, education experts, which relates to you. And then by default, it shows you 5 questions. But if you click on all of them, then you'll see there's an array of at least 20 key questions that we want to make sure that you understand. One, for instance, that we know from our previous experience that is important for you to understand is how Sophiri works, right? So again, Sophiri works in, when we are matching the future students with education experts, and we basically get them connected for them to start chatting. The student will have the choice of having up to 3 experts to talk to, and then a period of 72 hours at the moment to be able to talk to these experts, with the ultimate objective of choosing one of them that is going to look after the process of helping with the application to an education provider, choosing what course you want to study, destination, so on and so forth. So that is in principle how it works. And I'm just going to share with you quickly what that interface looks like. So as an expert, this is what your interface looks like, and it'll tell you information like how many messages you have, how many visas, applications, or finished processes you have. So this is automatically updated. If you were to have any new outstanding messages, it will come up here on your right. Your latest students, applications, or visas to check. From the same tab, you can actually click on automated news that we actually have coming out of the education providers, or the list of providers that we work with, where if you were to click on them, you will have a lot more information. Here in the messages section is where you are able to discuss things with a student. What else you can actually see, I am just typing and then sending a message to the student. Once you have a lot of students, you can actually search for all of these students as well, based on different criteria like names, or if you know the email, enter the email, that sort of thing. And then in applications, you can actually track, create new applications for a student, etc. Now, I'm gonna show you what it looks now like for a student. How does that connection works? So can you guys see there the screen for students? Let me just share it again. Just bear with me. It's the secret one. Here we go. Perfect. Now, so I just logged on as if I was John, and I look like Lionel Messi. I just completed my profile as a student, and then I entered that my first country of citizenship is Indian. I'm in Sydney, and here's my phone number, and then I speak Hindi and Sinhalese as a language, right? With just that information, I'm gonna go now into finding an expert, and I'm gonna say that I want to study accounting, and I wanna do a master's degree. So I will choose postgraduate master, and I will enter the course that I wanna do. So I wanna do a master of professional accounting, and then I click find. Immediately what happened just there is that I was shown an expert that is actually located near where I am, that speaks the language or is from the nationality. Sorry, that is from the same nationality. So as I say that I was from India, and then I say that I was in Parramatta, then I got somebody close to me that I can actually talk to. So Jaja Sharma, as an example, is one of the experts. And as I click on her case, I can see that she has a master's of philosophy. She's from India. This is where she's located, and she speaks Hindi. And she's from India, and then I can actually read more about her. And if I wanted to chat with her, I'll just click on the chat button, and then immediately I will be connected. Now, I can also choose to talk to people that is proficient in the same language. So as I say that I speak Sinhalese, then I found somebody that is German, but actually speaks Hindi too, as you can see. Or this gentleman from Bangladesh as well. And again, if I was to click on read more, I will be able to understand more about them. So say, for instance, as you can see from this expert, he speaks many languages. He speaks Nepalese, Urdu, Sinhalese, Pashto, Punjabi, English, of course. And it gives you an idea of the quality of the students. He is a lawyer as well, and a solicitor. So this is the type of experts that we actually have invited to join us. But I just wanted to give you a glimpse as to what it looks like. All right, let's move into the next one. And that'll be for me to show you. Sorry, that's not it. All right, so upload once. So what's happening is that our application, we've been building it for about 2 years, and we still have a long way to go. We have it so that it works with lots of social media channels and all that. But one area that we are right now developing is basically how to manage documents. While we finish developing that, what we're doing is that we are collaborating with a company, Australian company that we have partnered called Upload Once. But basically, when it comes to engaging students that are decided on an education provider and a course, how we request them to give us documentation or all the documents necessary, including the GT checks, the results of their IELTS, and all the many documents that are necessary for an application. We are using this software called Upload Once, where we all be given login details so that we can actually, that we can retrieve all these documents in a very simple manner. The other couple things that I wanted to tell you is that once you're approved as a Sofiri expert, you will be given a Sofiri email address that uses the domain sofiri.experts. So that'll be something like john.doe@sofiri.experts. And also, there is a LinkedIn group that we have where we're sharing constantly knowledge. So say, for instance, here, we did a post the other day about becoming a qualified education counselor completely free. And that is basically our promise and a reimbursement program that we have available for education experts that are actually successful. You can find information about that in our blog as well. So I just wanted to give you that quick overview, but I'll now put it on to Rina for her to show you something important, which is basically a high-level idea of how the students travel through the journey of becoming an international student. and how we fit on that one. Thank you.
Thanks, George. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah? Yes.
Awesome. Okay, what we've got here is the recruitment pipeline for a future international student. Now, to begin with, we'll be working with international students who are already residing in Australia. So I'll give you a little bit of an idea of the size of that market. But in 2016, there were 100,000 student visas granted to people who are already in Australia. So that's a very large market that we're working with here. And that's really what we've got here at the top of the pipeline, which represents the entire market, so that 100,000 students per year, funneling through the Sofiri process. So they sign up with us, they engage with you, and then from application through to receiving their visa. So let me talk a little bit more in detail about this pipeline and where you as an education expert will fit in, just so you can get an idea of the big picture. So what we have here is a typical marketing funnel, and from awareness, which refers to when a student, of course, knows about Sofiri, so they visited our website or our Facebook page, or our LinkedIn page, or anything else like that. So they might have heard about us in the media as well. So that's when they sit here at the awareness part of the funnel. And it's really the responsibility of the Sofiri marketing team to make sure that prospective students are aware about us. And the marketing team, again, through our marketing tactics, we ensure that as high a number as possible of these prospective students sign up for the Sofiri application. And again, that responsibility is with the Sofiri marketing team. From sign up, we then ensure that our students complete their profile, they add in their photos, and that, of course, they look for an education expert with whom they'd like to work with. So we use email marketing tactics and social media marketing tactics to ensure that they get to that stage. Now, when a student has started to engage with you as an education expert, this is really where your job starts. So you'll receive a notification that a prospective student would like to chat with you or would like to engage with you, and you'll receive that notification via email, which you'll then click through to the Sofiri application and begin chatting with them. And so you'll ask them a few questions, you'll get an idea of who they are and where they're coming from and what their aspirations are for their education and for their career as well. And once they've selected you as their education expert, you'll then work with them to complete their application. And again, this is the rest of the funnel here is something that you will engage with as an education expert. So you will help them apply for the courses in the universities or educational institutions with whom they're interested in. When they receive their offer, you'll guide them through to acceptance of it. And if they require it, you may help them with their visa applications as well. So that's a general idea of what the pipeline looks like, but it's a good thing to visually represent, because it's important for you to know that we do actually measure conversion rates from one segment of the pipeline to the next. So for example, how much of the market are we engaging through to sign up? That's something that we measure, because from our end, we're always aiming to get better and to capture more of the market as possible so that you can then engage with them. And then, of course, we measure engagement through to application. So of the students who you chat with, how many of them then go to make an application? And then how many of those receive an offer? And of those, how many accept their offer? And that's important for you to know that we do that, so that you, if you are goal-oriented particularly, you can see how you measure up as compared with other education experts, whether you're achieving better than other education experts, or whether even you require more support and more training as well. So that's my part on the high level picture of how things look. But please ask any questions that you have so far via either the chat window or the questions window in the webinar application as well, because in the next few minutes we'll be moving to a Q&A session. So please ask us everything that you've got. But in the meantime, I'll hand over to Fernanda, our National Experts Manager, to chat a little bit more about compliance.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Fernanda. So basically, the person that is on a daily basis in contact with all the experts from pretty much when they want to know about Sofiri until they're fully trained by us. So should you come on board, you'll be hearing a lot from me. Can everyone see the screen? Yes, cool. All right, cool. So basically, just to give you guys a big picture into, again, put it into perspective, international education is the third exporter of Australian economy. So as you can imagine, the government keep very close eyes on everything and anything to do with international education. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of compliance behind this to ensure that not just students, agents, or people that facilitate the process, and also education providers are doing their due diligence, and everybody's being genuine and across the board. So it's very important that you guys who will be engaging, and if this is something absolute foreign to you, that you are across the requirements of the industry, and how does that apply to you, to Sofiri, and to everybody involved, so all the stakeholders. So we have just gone through a little bit of information just to give you a big picture on the bodies that regulate our legislation, which is obviously the Australian government, and there's a piece of document called the National Code, and which highlights our obligations, as well as there's a lot of acronyms. It's the word of acronyms here. So essentially, it's telling what do's and don'ts, and the document is available online should you need to go in depth and learn what each of the standards stands about. Also, as you may understand, the Australian government requires that every international student on a student visa, obviously issued to Australia, has overseas student health cover. So this is a must-have as well, where students need to be covered. And at the moment, there's a few of the providers. So essentially, with working with the onshore market, most of the students will already have a student visa. So what we need to ensure is that they will have a valid student health cover throughout the whole duration of their program, okay? So this is something that to be aware of. And when it comes to visa, here is just a brief explanation on how the student visa types work, and it differs based on each category. So we have main three categories, which is ELICO, so students who are studying English here. That for students who are studying certificate, diplomas, and advanced diplomas. So say, for instance, your TAFE or private provider. And also your higher education, which falls your bachelor, master degrees, and PhD, which are mainly offered by the universities. Some VET providers are offering higher education courses. Some higher education providers are offering diplomas and advanced diplomas. And obviously, this is something that we will coach and guide you through the process. If you're not familiarized with those jargons and expressions, we will mentor you throughout the whole program. And again, this is just a little overview on how the student visa works here in Australia. Mind you that this is a live document because there's a lot of updates that the government sends to us and also to everybody involved that could potentially affect the way you're going to give advice to a student. So this is something to also to keep in mind. Again, the cost of visas, Department of Home Affairs, who guides a lot of our policies, And here just a little bit of glossary on international education. So if you have completed your studies here as obviously a domestic or international student, you will be very much familiarized with some of the terms. So we just try to make it a little bit easier for those who are not that familiarized. So you know what that exactly means. Obviously, this is a live document. We will be changing and adapting as we go. But again, the whole idea is that you can consult all this information here. And obviously, come to me should you have any questions. So my job is pretty much to guide you throughout the entire journey. So we have an open channel when we need, when you guys need some more information. So that's my little bit from me. I will give it back to George, who will be giving you the next piece.
Yes, thank you very much, Fernanda. So let me just now share my screen. I'll go back to me. Okay, can you guys see the FAQ as well? Yep, awesome, cool. All right, before we jump into questions and answers, I just wanted to tell you what is basically next. As I mentioned at the beginning, we invite to this session experts that have signed up with us. And the first call to action to anyone that has signed up with us is to please complete your profile thoroughly. That means giving us as much information as possible. There's about 5 cards that need to be completed, including uploading some type of identification, whether it's a copy of your passport or your driver's license. The reason we are asking you for this is so that we can triple check that the information that is actually being collected is accurate. So that's just simply for identification purposes. It all sits safely in our protected servers, so no issues with that. We are not using that any other way. We recommend you that you sign in with LinkedIn and provide access to your LinkedIn in case we can find you, but most likely we will. Complete your bio as well. Tell us all about this. Write it in from the perspective of an international student and what they are going to be interested in reading about you. Make sure you enter all the languages that you talk to. When it says location in the first of the boxes, just enter the specific suburb where you are located. Don't just put the Australia because that's too big a country to say that you are there. I know that you are, but that's obviously not what we're after. And yes, just complete as much as possible. Make sure to upload a photo, and then we'll be in touch. What are we going to do after that? We're going to be checking on all this information, and then should be the case, we'll be submitting to you an online contract. This is a completely digital contract that will tell you what the terms of engagement between you and Sofiri are, that will discuss things like our commission policy and how you are rewarded for your job and the hard work that you'll be putting into this. And you can just sign that completely online. Once you sign that completely online, then we'll provide you with training. So we'll make accessible to you videos and any information for you to be able to understand everything completely. As I explained at the beginning of this session, we have created this knowledge base as well with hundreds of questions, which we will continue again to evolve with more and more questions. Anything that we haven't think of, we will be put that and that we know the answer, of course, we'll be putting it up there. And then soon enough, we're going to also release Moodle so that you are going to be tested in this knowledge. There is also, as mentioned before, QEAC, a qualification for education agent counselors, which is at the moment free for you to be able to start doing and receiving the online content. It's only until the point of you wanting to be certified that you are going to be asked to pay for it. But at the very beginning, just getting all this knowledge, it talks about, again, a lot of what Fernanda was saying, the framework and the legislation and all that, which is very important for everyone to understand. It's all available there for free. We do have an arrangement, and if you become an approved education expert of SOFIRI and you start recruiting international students with us, and you have paid for this, we'll reimburse you. All this information, again, is in our blog. And yes, so that means that training is a continuous thing. We will be also inviting education providers to do online training with you in a similar fashion to what we're doing right now, where they will be in front of the computers, sharing with them a presentation or a video, and basically taking you through some storyline, and then answering questions and answers verbally, which is the end of basically this presentation. So we'll proceed now to the questions and answers.
Yeah, awesome. So
Rina,
while you've been talking, Mira actually asked if there is a knowledge platform where all the information we're talking about is held, or whether experts need to go to the websites individually. And I think you just answered that just now, and by bringing up this FAQ screen as well, because all of the information that you should be looking for, or that you are likely to be looking for, will be found on this single website. If you didn't find what you were looking for, you can see this big button here that says submit a ticket, so you can certainly find out everything else that you need to know. But move on for another question for you, George and Fernanda. So we've had a few questions about how many education experts we already have who are based in Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria. Do you want to talk a little bit about how many people we currently have working with us?
Yep. So again, to recap, we have started with just the onshore Australian market. So that means international students that are located within Australia, which, as Rina mentioned, is over 100,000 visas being issued every year. Now, in our pursuit to find the best education experts available within Australia, we have received since the beginning of this year, so for close to 2 months now, approximately 250 registrations. Out of these 250 registrations, and following the vetting process that we have in place and the all the information that I just told you, we had close to 45 approved experts that are scattered all over Australia. There is no state where we are, because we even have one person in Northern Territory. And these experts come from different parts of the world, but actually many as well are Australians that were born here, but they are very international because they might have experience working in this industry before, or they used to live overseas for a few years, and then they're back here, and then do have and possess the knowledge and the skills required for what we need to do. So that is basically the mix that we have at the moment. There is no female-male ratio. It's 50-50, so there's not much relevance. But more importantly, many of them are highly educated. We have about 7 to 8 PhD students or PhD graduates within this education experts. In one way or another, everyone is connected with this industry.
Yeah, look, I think it's important for everyone to realise that we're looking for diversity in our education experts, because what individual students are looking for from the education counsellors are going to be different every time. So no matter what your background, there's definitely a place for you as an education expert, that's for sure. So Lisa asked a great question. So she wants to know how SOFIRI differs from agents such as IDP with the big names and reputations.
Yep. So as I was stating at the beginning of this presentation, our business model is what differentiates us from organizations like IDP or any of these big agents. We do not have any offices. Well, sorry, we do have an office, but we do not have an office open to the public where students are coming. And that means that we are not operating under a 9-to-5 sort of schedule, like most of these education offices will do. Because we won't have any people on site to do this. What we do have is a large network of education experts that are also very different in terms of their quality when it comes to the education counselors. And there is gaps in knowledge, but this is what we are doing here to also try to provide you with training to for you to understand every single thing about an aspect of this industry. So that's one thing that makes us very different to agents. We don't run events, which is something that agents have been doing for the last 25 years to try to meet international students. What we do is highly sophisticated marketing to be able to try to invite students through the use of bots and lead ads and many ways for them to engage with us online so that they ultimately be connected with you for you to help them with the process of becoming an international student. And again, that's another big part of what differentiates us with agents, in particular medium-sized agents, because the large one, of course, do have marketing as well. And then the last thing, which is our sharing economy model. So what happens is that the agents do employ education counselors to help with the process of international students enrolling and so on. And they're usually employees of this organization. You guys, on the other hand, are a contractor of Sophiri, and as such, you are going to be rewarded in a way that cannot be compared financially to you working, for instance, as a counselor. To again give you an idea, and this is the numbers that we've been using to try to articulate what is the opportunity. The average fees in Australia when it comes to international students, and let's just stay, for instance, within the higher education sector to have a better idea, which again, in the onshore market, we're talking about more than 40,000 every year. The fees that they are paying on a yearly basis average about $30,000. And the commission fees also average at about 10% of the first year fees. So that's about $3,000. And because we're sharing this with you, and say, for instance, we're sharing 50% of this, that means that you guys are getting $1,500 per student technically. Now, that's again using averages. There will be cases in which it will be more, or cases in which it will be less. So it'll depend on the course, the education provider, the destination, so many factors. But I'm just giving you again averages so that you have an idea. Now, if you were to work at an agent as a counselor, usually you are expected to perform and recruit at least, or help with the process of at least 5 students per week. So that's giving you an idea as to what is the ratio. Because if you only just were to have 1 per week instead of the 5 that are expected from an education counselor, it's where we're coming out with that magic number of 52, and that's actually at a total of $2,000 and a 50-50 split in between our commission and your commission. So again, using averages, this is again one of the points that makes us very different than an agent. Does that answer the question?
I think it certainly does, but also to highlight the fact that people are able to work on your own schedule. So as an education expert, you can recruit, aim to recruit 5 students per week, or you can aim to recruit 1 student per month. It depends on what your schedule is and what your life situation is, as to how much you'd like to work. Certainly to begin with, you can test the waters and sort of start off slow and sort of see where that takes you as well. So that's an option. But we have lots of questions here, so we'll try and answer them as concisely as we can. But Mira has asked if Sophiri has any agreements in place with schools, student agents, and universities.
Yes, so we do have agreements with education providers directly. Bear in mind that we only started this year, so the number is small. But to facilitate for us to start next month recruiting international students for at least 20 universities and another 15 vocational providers, we have partnered with one of our clients that we work in the education agent sector to be able to straight away start recruiting international students. So yeah, there is a large network of education providers and courses to choose from right now. We are working really hard to get more of these direct contracts with providers. And I probably forgot to mention that we all been working in this industry for a while. So Fernanda, for instance, as an example, used to work for IDP, that was mentioned in this session, has been working for universities like Macquarie University. Rina, for instance, used to work at University of Tasmania. and has been working, of course, in other industries as well. I myself been a consultant for more than 5 years before leaving a university where I used to work as well. So we do have a lot of knowledge and a lot of organizations that we are working with to try to build the best network of education providers possible.
Awesome, awesome. So another question here, which you answered earlier, but just to be really, really clear on the answer, is from Maimuna, who asked if the payment is in terms of hours worked or in terms of students placed.
Wonderful. So we are, it's very interesting because as an education provider, there is no such model. So they have never actually dealt with somebody like us. So how Sofiry is rewarded, and consequently how our education experts are rewarded, are based on a very established model, which is commission for successfully recruited and enrolled students. That means that if a student has commenced and has stayed past census date, the education provider pays a commission. Now that commission again changes from levels of studies, but usually your students enroll into English as a second language education receive a larger commission, and the lowest will be in higher education. But also the fees will of course change. So once the student is confirmed as enrolled and has commenced, then Sofiry is paid a commission, which then shares with you in a way that is very meaningful to you, of course.
Awesome. So we had a couple of questions earlier when I was talking about the future student pipeline, and these were questions about the conversion rate. So
yep.
How they're calculated and how we record it, and also what our expectations are in terms of conversion, because we talked about, of course, 100,000 student visas being issued to prospective students already in Australia. So how does that funnel down?
Yep, absolutely. So we work with data, lots and lots of data to make every decision. No decisions are made on hunches or that sort of thing. It's all about information to be able to help us. Now, that means that not only our software is also tracking everything that is happening, but we work in terms of what's happening with the industry. So we're really lucky here in Australia that a lot of the information is publicly available through multiple databases and sources. But to give you an idea what the conversion rates are when it comes to the first layer, which is students being issued a visa after being lodged within Australia, the conversion rate is 98%. That means only 2% of the people get a visa rejected when they are in Australia already. And this is again an average, right? So maybe a nationality will be a little bit more. Some of the nationalities will be close to zero. If you were to make it to the point of a visa, that means that you receive a confirmation of enrollment, and a confirmation of enrollment has been given to you if you again have paid your fees and accepted your offer. Now, in between you accepting receiving an offer and accepting it and getting a confirmation of enrollment, the usual conversion rate is about 30%. That means in essence, like 1 every 3 students will be accepting your offer. Now, what happens to the other 2/3? It's not necessarily that they are not accepting offers. It's a mix of course, not being able at all to accept, but also accepting in some other locations. Because what happens is that many students actually apply to more than one provider. And in fact, that will actually be available in our application through Sofiry. So you can raise up to 3 applications per student. And that means that if you think about it, the conversion rate there will be by definition 1 every 3, because the student will only be able to accept one of them. So that is a conversion rate again. And then the other ones that we're looking at is at the top of the funnel. So how many people, for instance, sign up to then apply? And that is one that it will depend again on many factors like nationality, or if it's onshore and offshore. We're working with a 5 to 15% conversion rate in between sign up and application. But as you can see from Rina sharing that screen there, it has to do with engagement. And that engagement is actually you guys. You guys and ourselves with marketing, of course, as well. But you guys helping the student that signed up convert into an application. So it's in our hands, that conversion rate, to make it as high as possible. But it again, it will depend on many factors. We are betting on some cases, depending on the, because our marketing campaigns will be very demographically specific. And then in some of the demographics, it can actually go up to 25% easily. But it all depends again on many variables. And then the first one, which is awareness to sign up, is how many people find out about Sophiri or find out about an education provider or a course that ultimately sign up. So this is where we are very proud to say that some of the people that we're working with are highly knowledgeable about marketing for education. And that some of the conversion rates that we have seen from awareness to sign up is as high as 50%. And that is not by any means the average, because if we were to look at all the different players and the different industries and all that, of course, it's way lower than that, ranging from 3 to 5 to 10%. But we're very confident that our proposition for the students is also very different. And the fact that we're doing a lot of marketing through bots like Facebook, Messenger bots, or the use of Facebook League ads, or even Chinese social media as well, and automation of a lot of what's happening at the top of the funnel, is that our conversion will be definitely higher.
Yeah, I guess the most relevant part of what you just said was really related to engagement through the application and those conversion rates, because that is, as you say, what is in the hands of education experts. And we will be able to measure that in a very scientific way through the data that we're able to capture. So you will be able to know if you tend to be quite goal oriented and very ambitious, and you like being able to measure where you're at, particularly compared to your peers, and this is going to be very useful for you. So Mira has asked another question. So the question is about how an application is submitted, and whether it will go through the Sophiri database or the Sophiri application, or whether it will still be made on the educational providers' websites. So
cool. Good question. This is actually a great question, because at the moment, you start the application process by documenting the request of an application within Sophiri. How we are collecting the data, as we explained before in this presentation, for the moment, we're using an organization called Upload Once, so that we can easily pick up all the documents that we need. How we launch the application, if it is a education provider that we have a contract with, then we have been given credentials for us to launch the application directly into their systems. So say, for instance, using an example, there is the University of Tasmania, it's one of the education providers that we have an agreement with. Then they use a company called StudyLink Connect for the online application. Now, with the credentials that we will have, then you can go and upload all the documents and all the information that we have collected in the, beforehand for the application of the student. Now, that is in the case of all direct contracts. In direct contracts, it's as easy as just simply at the moment collecting everything to Upload Once, and that's the end of the story. Then we'll go and check everything, the documents are fine, and then submit it to the body that is processing this application. So it'll depend on that. But what's going to happen eventually is that we're already starting to work with StudyLink Connect, so that the information eventually that is collected from Sophiri, we don't need to enter it twice into StudyLink, but basically pull out the information, so that in technical terms, both databases are connected, and that we only need to do this process once. And that's the future. That's where we're working towards. StudyLink Connect, as an example, works with 1 every 3 universities at the moment. So that's a big number of universities and a big number of courses that are available.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so we have a question here about whether an expert will need to invest in any costs before getting started in their role.
No out of pocket. We don't charge you for you to sign up with Sophiri. For us, if anything, we think is a cost for you to dedicate time to study and get trained by us. So that will be what we're asking from you, your time. We encourage you to go into QEAC online and do the course as well, which is going to be again time for you. You don't need to pay anything for you to be able to again do the course. Yeah, so no basically charges are going to happen. Again, with QEAC, we have a reimbursement program that if you have 5 students enrolled, that we will reimburse you. So if you were to pay, for instance, right now for it, and then later down the road you have 5 students, Sofiry will actually give you back the cost of that. If I'm not mistaken, it's $400 to $500 for that course. Yeah, you don't need to pay for that. You can just simply do the course to begin with.
Great. So we have another question here from Mira. She's asking some great questions. She's asked if a contract needs to be signed with Sofiry at some stage.
Yes. As I was quickly explaining before the Q&A, the idea is that you need to complete your profile right now, and then once it's fully completed, then we will be in touch with you, having assessed this profile with an online contract. It's a contract between you and Sofiry that again details information about your obligations or obligations as well. So it's for you as well as it is for us. It includes our commission policy, so you will be able to see information on how we are basically paying you the commissions, and basically understand all the legal framework that makes this operation transparent for you and for us and for everyone involved. So yes, you do.
Awesome. So this isn't a question that has been asked here today, but this is the final question I'll ask you, George, to explain to everyone before we wrap up the session. But how can people who are considering working with us as an education expert find out more information about the legitimacy of Sofiry as a business? Apart from seeing our beautiful faces here now, of course.
Well, you can actually look us up in a ABN lookup, so the Australian Business Number Government, to know that we're an established organization. That'll be the first step. The second step is to go through our website as well and see all the information and where we've been putting together. There's links to or from our profiles into our LinkedIn, so you can actually see all of our reputation and work that we have done. We're actually working with the state government right now. They are going to be issuing a press release as we have been granted some funds from the state government. But we quickly have also put some information on our blog about it. And I think ultimately this piece as well, along with information about the investors that we have and the capital seeding that we have received to be able to proceed with this endeavor, is a part of the question and the mix of things to talk about legitimacy and how we're here to challenge the education channel, the education channels as we know it.
Awesome. So I'll pop in a blog post that we have as well that references a little bit more about where we've come from and how we got here and all the rest of that as well. But for now, it looks like we've come to the end of our session today. Thank you, everyone, for staying online with us for nearly the full hour. Did you want to talk about the next steps in terms of the emails that we'll send and the webinar recording?
Yes, absolutely. So this webinar has been recorded, and we will be sending you a copy as well, along with many of the links that we had discussed today. If there were questions in this session that we don't have in the FAQ, we will be adding those as well. So, but we'll be giving you again links to all of that, or you can just go to our website, or again, faq.sofiry.com. And yes, we look forward to hearing from you. If you have, again, a profile that is incomplete, go ahead, sign in on Sofiry and complete your profile so that we can actually assess it and send you a copy of the agreement. And if you have already have an agreement with you, you need to sign it, send it back to us. It's all going to be done online right now. And if you're already been approved, then we are going to be training you and need to test you as well before we start campaigns. We plan to start campaigns in about a couple of weeks. So soon we're going to be flooded with international students into our application for you to please help them. That's it.
Awesome.
So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
appreciate the time, and you all have a good night.
Thanks again.
Bye.